David Stockman taking the criticism one gigantic step further. He's the former budget director under President Reagan, and we're also joined by former Dallas Federal Reserve senior VP and chief economist Michael Cox. Your criticism today, David.
This is pathetic. It's a profile in cowardice. We're in month 90 of zero interest rates effectively. A full business cycle has passed. Allegedly, we're at 4.7% unemployment, and they still have their foot on the accelerator. We're at an ultra emergency rate. This has nothing to do with the real economy. Nothing. This is about fear of Wall Street. This is about fear of a hissy fit. And this is about a policy that does nothing for the real economy, that is crushing savers, and is the greatest gift to speculators ever created. Zero interest rates are the mother's milk of speculation. And we've created a bubble that is so large that when it does blow, there will be more carnage than we've ever seen before. Anybody who's got any sense ought to get out of this market, sell the bonds, sell the stocks, get out of the casino, because the people who are running the Fed, led by Janet Yellen, have no clue whatsoever on what they're creating.
Michael Cox has been on the inside. Specifically, do you agree with anything that David has just said? And what do you make of the fact that she said there are a whole litany of items here that are keeping us from making any move at the moment?
I agree with 95% of it, and I can't even think of the 5% that I wouldn't agree with. Yes.
Maybe the mother's milk of speculation, although we agree with that, I think.
Well, look, lower for longer, who does that sound like? To me, it sounds like Japan embarking on the beginning of low interest rate monetary policy in the 1990s, and that where they held the central bank rate at very low levels for now 25 years. What does that do for Japan? It put them in a stupor. Who wants to loan at such low interest rates? You know, all the Fed policy talks about is this makes it easier for people to borrow, but they don't talk about how it makes it harder for people to lend, less desire to lend. David talked about that. You know, we're killing savers. Would you lend money at such a low interest rate thinking that rates are going to go up? No, and of course that's why banks are holding on to reserves relative to deposits of 20 to 25%. When a decade ago they didn't even have reserves equal to 1% of deposits. I mean, this is the same old thing. Oh, I'm getting so tired of it.
Let me jump in and articulate a couple of things in case people miss some of the things that Janet Yellen said about the labor market. Surprised me a little bit. Labor market state, she said, is still healthy, but has lost momentum, although we shouldn't overblow one labor report, the May labor report, which was pretty darn ugly.
Look, the monthly BLS numbers are not worth the paper they're printed on. They're revised and re-benchmarked and changed. You cannot base anything on 1 month. We ought to look at the trend. We're creating part-time jobs that are temporary. Full-time, full-pay jobs are no higher today than they were in 2000. So the whole idea that the Fed is somehow shepherding the labor market and that they're effective at doing it, I think is totally wrong. The labor market is in bad trouble because we have 100 million people that could be working, or some of them, a lot of them, that aren't. And therefore, the fundamental question is, does all this money printing, does all this zero interest rate do anything other than fuel bubbles on Wall Street?
Michael, if you were sitting in that meeting, could you somehow justify going into a summer where we are facing next week's so-called Brexit vote, the UK deciding whether to eliminate itself from the European Union trading bloc, could you somehow justify that here in the U.S. we could still stomach a quarter-point rate hike?
Yeah, I could justify it on good grounds. The way you're going to get people to lend more money is you're going to raise the rate that they get when they loan it. And so, you know, we got to get back to normalcy in interest rates. We've got the economy in a stupor for like David said, 100 months of low interest rates. It's just not normal. We this is not a growth-based economy. This is really a good economy which favors people who hold government bonds, if you believe it or not, because what you've got is you've created so much risk in the economy, so much uncertainty. There's uncertainty in who's going to be the next president, uncertainty in monetary policy, uncertainty in trade policy, uncertainty in regulatory policy. This is why rates are going negative, because the government has created a world in which you would rather hold government bonds, which are nominally safe at extremely low interest, maybe negative interest rates, than you had a normal interest-bearing corporate security. Well, you can't grow economy that way.